So if most of you don't know me from this platform, SEC Unfiltered, you definitely know me from my rant that's gone viral talking about why no 9-3 team is going to get into the college football playoff. And I was adamant about that. And technically, I'm not wrong just yet, but I am starting to lose faith because of college football as a chaotic sport, and we're seeing it all unfold every single Saturday. 3 9-3 SEC squads are trying to make the case. And you know what? God bless their athletic directors, fancying them out there like this is a matchmaking show. South Carolina does have a case, whether you like it or not. Ole Miss has a case, whether you like it or not. And Alabama, without question, has a case to make it to the dozen dance. And honestly, it might be the easiest one of all. And I've already broken down the other two. So let's talk about why Alabama belongs in a 12-team playoff. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. It's Cole Thompson here. Make sure that you like the video, smash that ring notification, and of course, hit the subscribe button because this isn't just a college football playoff show. No. We talk about everything from the transfer portal to coaching hires to moves being made in the playoffs. So make sure you smash that subscribe button. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. Make sure that you download the podcast version of the show, wherever you get your podcast listening systems, and leave a 5-star review over there, especially if you like this type of content. Plus, check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the #1 fantasy app for all things college football, but more importantly, you got college basketball riding around the corner. Bet the over and unders on how many points you think your favorite player is going to score, and do so by using the promo code SECU to get a $50 instant play with your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks is the official sponsor of the SEC Unfiltered Tour, and it is the #1 fantasy sports app for your livelihood today. Alabama has the easiest argument out of everybody out there. I'm not saying, and if you're watching this and you're an Ole Miss fan, and you're watching this and you are a South Carolina fan, I'm not saying Alabama is going to get in. You still have a case. What I'm saying is Alabama has the easiest one. Let's start off with the fact that last week, when the rankings came out, when the committee Ward Manual decided to determine who was the best 8-3 roster, Alabama got the nod. They were right behind Clemson. Clemson lost. So the easiest move would be for Alabama to move on up. They would be now in the running so long as SMU were to win the ACC. Because Miami also decided to lose the game. And we can all agree on this one. Whether you bleed the garnet and black, whether you bleed the crimson and white, whether you scream hotty toddy as loud as the top of your lungs. If Miami gets in and all three of these SEC teams get left out, you are allowed to rally together. In fact, you will see a brotherhood of the SEC reach new boundaries that we have not formed since we all decided that there were schools out there that never belonged in SEC conversation, and go to the main office and go to Grapevine, Texas, and make sure that you burn it all down. In fact, I may be at the very front of that charge. But regardless of anything, Alabama would be the easiest one to get in. Because if all you're doing is you're moving everyone up. You're all 9-3. Here's the other point. South Carolina has 2 losses to ranked teams that are ranked ahead of them. Ole Miss and Alabama. And so for South Carolina's sake, you're kind of out. You also got to look at the teams that you beat. Similar to how we talked about when it comes to a team like Kentucky, like Ole Miss, you got to talk about for Alabama. Alabama didn't lose a game at home. Alabama was undefeated at home this year. All 3 of its losses came on the road in Nashville, in Knoxville, and in Norman. Now, don't get me wrong. When you look at a team like Ole Miss, they have a significant win over Oklahoma, a dominant win over Oklahoma. It's at home. They also have a heartbreaking loss on the road against LSU in Death Valley, a place that Les Miles once said, dreams truly come to die. Except there's a little asterisk at the very top of that because it says, except for Alabama, because they own this place. In fact, Alabama has more wins in Death Valley than LSU has in the rivalry altogether. So that rule is out the window when the Crimson Tide, Nick Saban, Kalen DeBoer, Jalen Milroe, Bryce Young, whoever the hell the quarterback and the head coach are, it doesn't matter. They're going to take names. They're going to kick asses down in Baton Rouge. They're calling Baton Rouge to go on home because if they now own Tigerland. They now own Death Valley, and they dominated in that game. And it was a 3-point loss for Ole Miss, and it was a 4-touchdown win for Alabama. They're number 2 in opponent winning percentage at 67.4. They're number 4 in ESPN's FPI ranking. That's the ranking for the strength for the record. They're number 4 in ESPN's efficiency rating, both are ranked ahead of South Carolina and ahead of Ole Miss. They're number 10 in ESPN strength of schedule, both ahead of South Carolina and Ole Miss. They're number 17 in ESPN strength of record. My apologies. Strength of record, they're number 10, number 17, strength of schedule. South Carolina has a stronger strength of schedule than Alabama, but it does not have a stronger strength of schedule than Ole Miss. Ole Miss is behind Alabama. On top of that, they have 3 wins against teams currently ranked in the AP top 20, the CFP top 25, including Georgia. And there is no common opponent win outside of South Carolina for these two that you could really argue, except in losses. So the Tennessee game doesn't affect Alabama, just like the Florida game doesn't affect Ole Miss in this one. So argument out on those two. On top of all this, you also have to throw in 4 wins against teams ranked or receiving votes in the AP top 25. In the game of 6 of 8 FBS wins have come against eligible bowl teams. They've also won 4 of their last 5 games heading into the postseason. They have 1 loss, and it is to Oklahoma. And if we're going to talk about Oklahoma's loss on the road, we also have to throw in a loss at home against Kentucky for Ole Miss. So that has to count. When it comes down to it, I'm not saying that Alabama is the most deserving. In fact, if you really want my honest opinion as an Alabama grad and as somebody who has seen the narrative on how this Alabama team has looked, it was a down year. It was a very down year. I don't care if you have a rebuilding process in the works and a foundation is being set underneath Kalen DeBoer. I like Kalen DeBoer. I think he is the right guy. In fact, shame on all the Alabama fans or people that claim that they believe the Crimson White, that this man is not the right guy for the job. This man wins everywhere. This man builds cultures. He builds identities. He builds systems that are sustainable. And more importantly, the reason why he continues to move up the pecking order is because of he's worth it. The reason why Alabama made the only right call on bringing in a guy like Kalen DeBoer is because they knew he'd bring in the right resources behind him. A guy like Courtney Morgan to leave Ann Arbor and head on down to Titletown, USA. This is the right guy for the job. I am 100% believing that in the future, Alabama will hoist up a national championship trophy and Kalen DeBoer will be smiling, realizing that he is continuing the legacy on where legends are made. But it doesn't matter because you can't lose to Vanderbilt. I will never accept that. And I don't think anyone in Alabama should accept that. You can't lose to Oklahoma by 3 touchdowns when South Carolina is up 21-0 after 4 minutes. When Oklahoma is winning by double digits. You can't. It's inexcusable. And I understand officiating in the SEC has been atrocious this year. And the Ryan Williams play absolutely is why Kalen DeBoer is the right guy for the job, because if he went to bat for his player and he was well on his right to. But it didn't change the outcome of the game. You were outworked. You were outgained. You couldn't stop the run. Your offensive line was a turnstile of misery and mediocreness. Jalen Milroe was under duress and making ill-advised throws at the wrong time. And eventually, all you could do was wave the white flag and say, we didn't do our job. But I'm not in charge of the College Football Playoff Committee. The College Football Playoff Committee has an addendum in place that will say, what do we value more? Head-to-heads, strength of record, strength of schedule, on-field play? What is it? What are we looking for? Because in all those scenarios, head-to-head, Alabama has a case. Strength of record, Alabama has a case. Strength of schedule, Alabama has a case. Strength of play, and eye test, Alabama may have the weakest case. But they still have a case. They went on the road to Madison, Wisconsin, and they made mincemeat out of the Badgers. They went on the road to Death Valley, and they tamed the Tigers. They beat up on a Missouri squad that went 9-3. They made sure they didn't let the comeback occur for the Cardiac Cocks. They made sure that they got a win against Georgia, just like Ole Miss did. And you can't argue either of those because both were at home. So regardless, there is a case for Alabama. And it might be the easiest one. If the committee simply is trying to go based off of head-to-heads, strength of schedule, common opponent, wins and losses, Alabama is the favorite. And more importantly, you can't say to yourself, Alabama 1 week was good enough to be right on the outside looking into the college football playoff, but because they only won by 14, when meanwhile, Ole Miss only won by 2 scores against their rival, and it came a comeback against Lenore Sellers for them to get on, for the Palmetto Bowl to be in favor of the Gamecocks. That can't be the case. Say, well, no, now we're going to move Ole Miss ahead of you. No, now we're going to move South Carolina ahead of you. And to keep the sanctity of college football alive and why games matter on the field, You have to include the head-to-heads. You just do. That's the case. Whether or not I believe that Alabama is playing its best version of football right now means nothing. What matters is, did they do their job against common opponents and against a head-to-head matchup? Georgia, mission accomplished. South Carolina, mission accomplished. They did it. LSU, mission accomplished. Oklahoma, no, they didn't. And Ole Miss can have that claim. Vanderbilt, did they do it? Nope. And South Carolina can have that claim. Tennessee, none of them played. So you got to throw that one out. Alabama has an offense that can make new waves. Alabama has a defense that when it's playing its best version of football, nobody wants to go toe-to-toe against. It was a bad loss in the month of November, which again bodes extremely well for a team like South Carolina that went undefeated for the last 6 weeks of the college football season, but still head-to-heads have to count. If we're simply going based off of resume, value, and more importantly, what are head-to-head matchups, Alabama is the clear-cut winner. And if the college football playoff rankings want to go with that scenario, the case doesn't really matter for Ole Miss. And it doesn't matter for South Carolina. What matters is who won the games when they had to win the games. And that would be Alabama, which is why Alabama would get in as the number 11 seed. Whether or not that script day carries a lot of weight means nothing to me. What matters is if the college football playoff committee is looking simply at what is their addendum, the Tide are rolling into the 12-team playoff. Let me know in the comment section down below. What are your thoughts about Alabama? Do they belong in the 12-team college football playoff? Do you believe that they belong in over South Carolina, over Ole Miss? Like, rate, review, subscribe. Make sure that you're following us on all the social channels, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow me at Mr. Cole Thompson. And check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. I'm Cole Thompson. Until next time, folks. Peace.